You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Coming up, we will preview this weekend's AAC Softball Conference Tournament. Eric Lopez, the voice of the UCF Knights on ESPN Plus, and also the co-host of the In the Circle podcast, and one of the big authorities on college softball, will join us to talk about that and more in just a few moments. But first, let's take a look at baseball. East Carolina leading the standings at 14-4 in conference, 30-18 overall. Houston trailing them at 12-6 in conference, 32-16 overall. UCF in the third spot, 11-7 in conference, 28-19 overall. Tulane at 10-8 in conference play, 29-19-1 is their overall mark, and Cincinnati at 19-25 overall, but in the top portion of the conference at 9-9 in conference play. The player of the week for this past week, Ryan Hernandez, the Houston first baseman, helped the Cougars to a series win over Wichita State by hitting .467 with 5 runs scored, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, and 6 runs driven in. He recorded a hit, scored a run, and drove in a run in every game last week. And the pitcher of the week is C.J. Mayhew of East Carolina. Had one of the best pitching performances in the country this season, throwing 9 innings, a no-hit ball against Memphis on Friday night. The redshirt sophomore faced one batter over the minimum through 9 innings, only walked 1 and struck out 9 Tigers. And the Pirates would go on to win that game in 13 innings. We preview the AAC Softball Conference Tournament next with Eric Lopez from the In the Circle podcast and the voice of UCF on ESPN Plus. We check in with Elo right after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, my pleasure to welcome to the AAC Report. He is the voice of UCF Softball and ESPN Plus, co-host of the In the Circle podcast, and one of the preeminent bracketologists in college softball, we might add as well. Eric Lopez is here. Elo, how you doing, buddy?
It's doing good. It's a busy time of year. There's not much sleep anymore, as you mentioned, between filling out brackets and a bunch of other stuff, trying to figure all this picture out, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's awesome to be on with you here on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And of course, Eric's been on my Jeff Allen Sports Talk podcast several times, and we finally got to shake hands in person for the first time a few weeks ago.
Right. That's right. You got to come out to a UCF softball game, so it was good to meet you there, and it was a very successful game, if I recall. UCF won that game.
Yeah, that was the sweep of the Tigers. Yep.
Memphis Tigers were unruled. Yeah, beat them up pretty good. So good win, part of a pretty historic team that they've put together out there this year, and obviously the regular season champions as of this weekend after winning 2 out of 3 in Wichita.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, you can't talk about the conference tournament until you talk about the regular season. And, boy, you couldn't script it any better to have your top 2 teams squaring off for all the marbles on the final weekend.
No, I mean, and considering these two teams have now kind of developed a rivalry in a short period of time, you go back to last year, these were the two best teams last year. Wichita State beat UCF to win the American Conference Championship game in Tulsa, a game that was nationally televised. They beat them in the regular season 3 times in the 4 meetings. The 4th meeting ended in a bizarre 0-0 tie because there was a drop dead time because Wichita State had to catch a flight. Funny, UCF had no such thing this Sunday. I'll leave it as that. But so now here we are. These two teams kind of a collision course here. UCF came out of the block strong this year with a young team. They swept South Florida to begin the year. And then you could just kind of sense it for the last 3-4 weeks. This was going to come down to this weekend. Wichita State, the defending champions, against UCF. Can UCF get over the hump against the Wichita team they have struggled against historically since Wichita has been to the league? And, Friday night, Wichita comes back from a 4-run deficit, scores 11 unanswered, and you're thinking, here we go again from a UCF perspective. The Shockers, going to kind of repeat, but UCF came back with pitching. Kemal Woodall bounced back after a rough relief appearance on Friday, held Wichita State, which is the number 2 scoring offense in college softball behind Oklahoma, held them to 1 run. And then on Sunday, as UCF won that game 3-1, and then UCF exploded offensively on Sunday to beat them 9-5 to win the outright regular season title. When this league started, UCF won the first 2 regular season titles in 14 and 15, and now they have a third one here in the back end.
Yeah, and that was quite an accomplishment, winning on the road too, in a big series nonetheless. So we get the conference tournament this weekend, and obviously UCF, Wichita State, South Florida are the 3 best teams in the conference. Are there any upset specials available?
You wouldn't think so. I think if you're the team to kind of watch is Houston. Houston's capable of putting up runs. They have a pitcher, the name of Kenna Wilkie, who was transferred out of Northwestern. She's really pitched well in the second half of the year. Houston is going to play Tulsa in the 4-5 game. And the winner of that will play UCF in the semis. UCF gets a bye as a result of winning the regular season title, so they won't play till Friday. Houston did take a game from UCF back in Houston a couple weeks back when coming back from a 7-1 deficit to beat UCF. That was a game, though, where UCF kind of pulled Gianna Mancha early, brought some of their younger pitchers in. I don't anticipate that to happen. But if you're going to see an upset, more than likely, I think it's Houston. Assuming they beat Tulsa, they could give UCF some fits. You look at the other side of the bracket, East Carolina is the host team, so you always have to kind of pay respect to that. The problem is they're going to run into a young lady named Georgina Korek, who I think is the best, not only the best pitcher in the league, might be the best player in the league. She's going to win another pitcher of the year, and she's, to me, the best pitcher in college softball right now. So I don't see that, and I think Wichita State has too much firepower for Memphis. So I think if you're going to see an upset, it could be Houston if they get past Tulsa, maybe against UCF. But again, the 3 favorites are UCF, Wichita State, South Florida, but without question.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about South Florida. You mentioned Georgina Korek, who is putting up, just had a killer weekend, going 3-0 this past weekend, just totally shutting down the opposition, and that's what she does. And, these 3 teams obviously are going to be looking at the NCAA tournament. When you look at a team like South Florida, when you have a dominant ace like that, boy, you have great opportunity there.
A throwback. Throws pretty much every game now. She's thrown. I expect her to throw every game in this tournament. And I got a chance to talk to her on my podcast, In the Circle. A wonderful person, great representative of their university, great representative of the sport. Is on the Great Britain national team. And just she gets it. She has a great head, super smart. I think she could do whatever she wants. She's going to play professionally afterwards with Athletes Unlimited, it sounds like. She could go into coaching if she wants. She's a force, and she's the most in my opinion. Look, Jocelyn Allo of Oklahoma is going to be the National Player of the Year. But if you ask me about the MVP of the league of college softball and the best pitcher in the sport, it's Georgina Korek. South Florida, to me, when she is pitching in the circle, they can beat anybody. They've beaten teams like the Michigans of the world, Oklahoma State, etc. When she doesn't pitch, they struggle. I've made this parallel. When Georgina Korek's pitching for South Florida, they are capable of being a 2 seed in an NCAA tournament. You take Georgina Korek away, they don't even come close to making the NCAA tournament. That's how valuable she is. I think their ERA staff without her is like a 5 to 6 ERA average. She has a .44 ERA on the year. She is a difference maker. She's going to be the most decorated pitcher in the history of this league. She's going to go down there with Sarah Nevins as maybe the two greatest South Florida Bulls. And she's a difference maker. She is one that can single-handedly dominate this tournament. And it's her swan song. It would not surprise me at all if she won the title. And I think for South Florida, look, their non-conference schedule strength is not great. Their overall schedule strength is not great. Some people think they need a win or two. I don't. But, I expect her to pitch. And South Florida will go as far as she goes.
Yeah, no question about that. As far as that goes, you look at Wichita State. I thought it was a pretty interesting contrast. When they faced off with the UCF for the weekend. This is a team that has a lot of pop in the bat. They definitely can power you into submission, so to speak. Talk about the Shockers and what their prospects are.
You're right. They're number 2 coming in runs scored in the country behind Oklahoma. So that's saying something. They've hit, I believe, about 110 home runs as a team. Addie Barnhart is their leader. 30 homers, 77 RBIs, 409 average in the year. Among the nation's best in homers and RBIs. She is on pace to be the first Division I softball player, Jeff, all ever, to have 30 homers and 30 steals in the same year. 30-30. Yeah, that's being a longtime baseball fans, that's a magical thing, 30-30. She's got a chance. She has 25 steals. She's already the first player ever to do 25-25 in Division I softball. You have Sydney McKinney, who's the reigning American Conference Player of the Year. She's among the nation's leader in bat and hitting, 497 on the year. UCF couldn't get her out this past weekend. 13 homers, 37 RBIs. They're just an explosive offense that is just it's tough to stop. And, Nellie Herring, they got depth. They have the best offense. They go as their offense. Their pitching this year has had its ups and downs. They're not as good as last year when they had Bailey Lang, who was a lefty ace. That's what made them special and won the title. They have a couple of good arms. Aaron McDonald, Caitlin Bigham. They have a freshman in Cooper they like. But they don't have that dominant pitcher like a Bailey Lang was last year. And that's kind of what's held them back to this point. But they're going to go as far as their offense. But it'll be interesting. They go back to Greenville. 2 weeks ago, they played at East Carolina. They hit 10 home runs in a game where they won 24-1. So they've had success in that part. But it's interesting. The way the brackets played out, Wichita State's going to play Memphis. South Florida plays East Carolina. If chalk holds, you're going to have the Wichita State offense going against Georgina Corrick head-to-head. That is a collision. They played in the regular season in Tampa. South Florida won 2 out of 3. Interestingly, Wichita State split with Corrick. They actually lost a non-Corrick start, which was kind of a surprise. It was a very weird series, but Corrick shut them down. So that's going to be that could be a heavyweight title fight, which with the winner of that game probably locking up a spot in the tournament. The loser maybe has to stress out a little bit on Selection Sunday, although I believe as long as both teams don't lose their opener, I think they'll both be in the field of 64.
All right, and let's talk about the Knights. And I think the interesting contrast, they had the 1-2 punch with Mancha and Woodall. It's great to have two solid pitchers there. And I find it very interesting. You look at Gianna, and she had to fill big shoes in the greatness of Aaliyah White. And how she took that mantle and ran with it this year was very key for the Knights.
No doubt. She won her 20th game on Sunday. She's having her best year of her career. She's had a very underrated, great Division I career. She started out at Boise State, playing for Coach Cindy Malone, who was at Boise State at the time. Won the 2018 Mountain West Championship, with Boise State. Ironically, she pitched the deciding game that clinched the title for Boise State. That took place nearly 4 years to the day of this past Sunday, where Mancha got the ball in the decider to win the outright regular season title against Wichita State with Coach Ball Malone. So they have a long history that goes back to, recruiting days back pre-Boise State. And she came to UCF, helped them get to the NCAA tournament with Aaliyah White last year. And then this year, with no Aaliyah White, she had to step up into that number 1 role. And then the big question was, well, who's going to be the number 2 with Mancha this year? And Kamal Woodall has been the surprise. It's been incredible. This was a pitcher here, Jeff, a Tampa native that wasn't recruited in state, that went to NC State, transferred to East Carolina because coaches departed, and she found a home at UCF. And I've made this comparison, and you can relate to this, Jeff Allen. I call her the Mike Hughes of UCF softball. For those that don't know, they're listening to the podcast, you might be on the rock. Mike Hughes was a quarterback, transferred from North Carolina. Literally, Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like weeks before the start of the 2017 football season. And everybody's like, all right, that was nice. Mike Hughes, he ended up having an All-American type year at the cornerback and had the famous kickoff return for a touchdown to beat South Florida. I think everybody, UCF fans, would agree, without Mike Hughes, they don't win the conference championship. They don't go undefeated that year. Well, that's how I feel about Kamal Woodall. This was a kid, she was 9-19 last year at East Carolina, nearly knocked off UCF in the conference tournament, and Coach Paul Malone liked her. Liked her competitiveness, her feistiness, to the point where when Woodall entered the portal, UCF was of interest, and they connected, and she's had a career year, 16-4 with a 2 ERA, has closed games for them, could start. There's no way UCF wins the conference championship and has the season that they're having without Kamal Woodall. She has been the X factor in her one and only year in the black and gold, has been memorable.
Yeah, it is interesting because I recall early in the year, it looked like she kind of struggled a little bit out of the box, but boy, she got it together. What do you think really helped her turn the corner?
I think it was comfort, just getting used to the new surroundings, and her and Cindy Ball-Malone have really connected. Cindy Ball-Malone's been in the bullpen most of this year, and I think they've kind of bonded. I think she's brought the most out of Kamal Woodall. Even Kamal has said it's brought out the most that she thought she was capable of. It's been a heck of a story. And she's a complete opposite style pitcher than Gianna Mancha. That's why they like those two. They really they're so opposite that they give the offenses a different look. That's why a lot of times you'll see Mancha start, Woodall relief, or Woodall start, Mancha relief in big games, because they're so opposite that it's a complete contrast for a hitting team to adjust. And so that's been a big a weapon for this UCF team in their success.
All right, let's talk a little bracketology then, as far as the NCAA tournament goes. So what do the three teams have to do this weekend for positioning?
I think Wichita State, South Florida, avoid losing the opening round. Win a game, and then obviously one of them is going to win that game, get to the final, you're in, and obviously you can win. Look, those teams are capable of winning the automatic bid. For the team that doesn't get out of that side of the bracket, I still think they can get in, but you want chalk on other tournaments. You don't want a chaos theory where you might get left out. But I think they're all in. Now, UCF is a unique situation. They're locked to get in. The big question for them is, can they host? Can they do something that hasn't happened in UCF softball history? You realize this, Jeff Allen. There has not been a, quote, non-Power 5 school in softball to host a regional since 2016. It's one of the longest droughts, and UCF in 2015 thought they had a shot to host. They did not. And now we're back in the same boat. As we talk, their UCF's RPI is 16. They have 13 wins against the top 50, 4 wins against the top 25, including wins against Texas, who's a host bubble team. They beat Georgia, who's a host bubble team. They've got great wins across the board. They played the 16th strongest non-conference schedule. But the problem is, in softball and a lot of these Olympic sports, Jeff, they have this thing called the 400-mile radius rule. So a certain amount of teams have to bust 400 miles in a tournament. And the concern from a UCF perspective, you're in a state where Florida and Florida State are powerhouses. The Noles are going to be a top 3, top 4 national seed. Florida's in that teens, kind of where UCF is. So does 3 teams in the state of Florida can host like they have done in baseball? I think they can, but the negative is, well, we can't bust so many teams in Florida, so a lot of times they may just send UCF to Florida, which has been a big pattern. So that's the concern for UCF. I think they got to avoid the loss on Friday. If they can win the semis, win the championship, go double dip, that's going to make an intriguing selection Sunday night, whether UCF can break through with the resume they have and be one of the 16 hosts, or they will get shafted again. And arguably, if you look at their resume, they could be the biggest snub to never host in a single season in the history of the sport from a non-Power 5 standpoint. They would be up there if they can finish this off. But history says if that happens, they'll probably end up in Gainesville. So there's a lot on the line still here for UCF, even though it's just possibly 2 games in the conference tournament in Greenville.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that 400-mile rule. Is that something that you feel needs to be rid of?
I do, and I've spoken to the committee chairperson the last 2 years. Matt Larson was the committee chairperson for the softball committee last year, and Sandy Atkins is this year, and I had them both on my podcast, and they both acknowledge that the 400-mile radius, which is an NCAA thing, the one mistake a lot of people, myself, have made in the past is we assume this is a committee thing. No, it's a NCAA rule. And the reason the NCAA does this is to save money. It's because they don't want to fly everybody around. They want to just kind of bust in X amount of teams, not spend so much money on flying. So, but the problem is I've been explaining, the way this works is the committee will seed, they'll pick, all right, who are the 16 seeds? And then after that, the rest of the teams are in this computer software, which already has the information of, hey, we need to bus certain amount of teams that are 400 miles radius, within a 400-mile radius. So, for example, if you're UCF, if you're not one of the 16 chosen sites, okay, and seeds, you're thrown in here. The way the computer is set up, it's heavily going to be favored that more than likely they're going to end up at Florida or Florida State. It's not going to be like, oh, it could be a random 1 out of 16 spots. No, Florida and Florida State will have a higher percentage that UCF will end the way they have it structured because they want to make sure they have enough teams busing. And I just don't think we should be deciding teams on how they should be seated or who hosts or who gets in based on, hey, they could bus 400 miles to a location. To me, that's my issue. And I have talked to committee people. They don't see 2 seeds. And that's the thing. Because of this rule, Jeff, it throws everything for a monkey wrench. Because now you're like, wait a minute, why is that team in that regional, but that team is in that regional? As a result, it's because of the bus situation. Like UCF, for example, let's say UCF's a 17 seed, right? If you seeded the top 32, let's say UCF's a 17, obviously you would place them in with the host site, whoever that is the 16 seed. But with this rule, Florida could be like a 12 seed. UCF's more likely to end up there than end up in the 16th spot. That's just the way it is. And so that's why UCF always, and not just softball, but it always seems UCF ends up in Gainesville or Tallahassee. That's been the story in soccer for the most part. That's been the story in baseball. As you follow, baseball has been going to Tallahassee a lot when they make the tournament. So it's just frustrating because and some of the committee members, it makes it difficult for them. I wish they would seed the top 32 teams, and then you can bus whoever. I would do that. Because the problem is the teams that suck up all the majority of the flights are the 4 seeds playing in these small conferences, like the MAC, Metro Atlantic Conference, the Northeast Conference. These teams get to fly wherever they want because they can't bus anywhere for the most part. So meanwhile, a team like UCF that's earned an opportunity to be either a host or 2 seed may have to settle to bus to Florida for a tougher region.
Yeah. So is there more money coming into the sport now that it's popularity is increasing? They're doing nice ratings. Of course, we do a lot of media shows on my other podcast, and the fact that they beat the K-Rod, the cast made me dance quite a bit.
You enjoyed that article of mine, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So is there more money coming to the sport that can help alleviate those kind of problems?
I think there is. The question is this: the NCAA is too stubborn to look the other way, right? And they've had issues with women's sports in general. A lot of people believe that all these sports should be able to make their own TV deals instead of being under one umbrella. We're not going to get into all that. That's a long show. Maybe we'll do that on the media podcast. But softball's a hot sport television. It draws big numbers. It draws great demographics, 18 to 49. Like this past Thursday, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State drew nearly 600,000 viewers, beat 2 of the Stanley Cup playoff games head-to-head on Thursday. They beat hockey. They beat Major League Baseball, as you mentioned, a lot. It's a hot property. I can tell you that UCF Softball this year made a revenue. They I think they were 22nd in the country in attendance. Softball is becoming a revenue sport in a lot of places. A lot of the SEC places, to their credit, they've invested in facilities, and it's become now where they can draw a lot of fans and make money. Wichita State sold out all weekend for the UCF series. UCF, you were out there. They were drawing fans. That's even with some of the limitations of the facilities that you got to witness from a lack of shade and things like that. So that hurts their attendance in the afternoon, but they've drawn great this year. So it is becoming a revenue sport. Not everywhere, but enough. And I do think it's a sport, to me, where they should not be able to be forced to bust certain places and be limited on what they can do. Because I think right now, if you ask me, outside of obviously college football and men's basketball, I can make the argument that women's college softball is probably the hottest college sport property other than those two sports.
No, I think you definitely make a case for that. That's for sure. So, Elo, you got to give us the lowdown on In the Circle, how people can follow and get that coverage from around the AAC, our markets that we serve, so they can follow what's going on coming up as we head towards the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. In the Circle SB is the Twitter account. We're on twice a week on podcast form, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast devices. We're on the YouTube channel. We put a lot of interviews up there as well as press conferences there. We're going to have a live selection Sunday night show at 6:30. My co-host, your friend Victor Anderson, will be hosting that because I will be reporting from the UCF watch party that night. Normally I host that. I'll be reporting on the watch party. I'm going to have like multiple hats that night wearing there. So we're going to have all the coverage. We'll cover all the way to regionals, all the way to Oklahoma City. Interviews. We've interviewed all the coaches in the American Conference. So we have a ton of stuff there. We cover them all. We've talked about Georgina Cork. We've talked to Ken Erickson. We've talked to City Ball Malone. We've talked to Christy Breadbenner from Wichita State. It's a fun league to cover. And the sixth strongest league in softball, by the way, Jeff. The sixth strongest league in college softball. It's been fun. I've covered and been part of the broadcast for the 2016 American Conference Championship as well as the 17 and 18. So I that's a fun league and a fun tournament, and it should be exciting this year, this weekend in Greenville. A little mixed emotions because UCF was originally supposed to host it, but for reasons that above our paywall, with all the conference realignments, they changed that to East Carolina. East Carolina's done a good job hosting in the past, but it's fun. And so that's where you can find all the information in the Circle SB. And then follow me at Eric Lopez Elo, as I'll be tweeting a lot during conference championship weekend during the postseason.
Yeah, and of course, I do have to embarrass you a little bit here because, you do such a great job calling, softball. I would like to be your agent and cut a deal with a 4-letter for you to, be involved in the NCAA tournament. Because
hey, look, if you make that happen, I'll cut you in on that. If you can make that happen, you'll be great. But obviously, I've enjoyed my games this year, calling the games on ESPN Plus. Francesca Nea has been a great analyst. I've had Christina Wyatt, who I worked with for the first time this year, Jamie Lopez, a great crew, Major Howell, and all the great crews that I've worked with at ESPN Plus. We've gotten so many great feedback. A lot of people watching. We've trended on social media, so it's been a blast of a year. And I always enjoy this time of year calling softball, and I appreciate the support.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll look forward to your coverage all throughout. And again, we thank you for being on the show.
Anytime, Jeff.
Okay, so let's recap the schedule for you for the Conference Softball Tournament taking place at Max R. Joyner Family Stadium in Greenville, as ECU is the host. The first round getting underway Thursday. Number 4, Houston against number 5, Tulsa. That, of course, will be at 11 a.m. on ESPN+. The number 2 seed, Wichita State, takes on the number 7 seed, Memphis. That's at 2 p.m. on ESPN+. And the 3rd seed, South Florida, takes on the 6th seed, East Carolina. That's 5 p.m. on ESPN+. The semifinals will be played on Friday, May 13th, Friday the 13th. The Game 1 winner between Houston and Tulsa will face off against the top seed UCF, 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN+. The Game 2 winner between Wichita State and Memphis will face off against the Game 3 winner, USF and East Carolina. And then the championship game will be decided on Saturday at 11 a.m., and that will be played on ESPN2. The players of the week for the final week of the regular season, Madison Epperson of South Florida. She was on fire during the final series for the Bulls, batting .625, a home run and 4 RBIs during their sweep of the Tigers. And she added 7 putouts in the field at first base over the weekend. And the pitcher of the week, no surprise, once again, Georgina Cork of South Florida. In her final regular season series was a perfect 3-0. A tiny ERA of 0.41, 2 walks, and 37 strikeouts in just 17 innings pitched in the 3-game set. The Tigers combined to bat just 136 against her over that 3-game span. She had a 4-hitter, including all 50 outs by way of strikeout to win Game 1. Allowed 2 hits and 1 unearned run with a walk and 12 strikeouts in 5 innings in Game 2. And then the sweep with the 2-hit shutout, walking 1 while striking at 10 in the shutout victory on the 3rd game of that set. We'll take a final note from football. Let's talk about all the players chosen from the AAC in the NFL draft. That's coming up next when the AAC Report comes back after this.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Nightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
"19 players from the American Athletic Conference were selected in the 2022 NFL Draft." Let's give you that rundown of those. Ahmad Sauce Gardner was the number 4 pick overall in the first round. The Cincinnati Bearcat was claimed by the New York Jets. Later in the first round, at the 24th spot overall, offensive tackle Tyler Smith of Tulsa was selected by the Dallas Cowboys. 3 players were picked in the second round. It's Logan Hall, the defensive end of Houston, selected by the Tampa Bay Bucks at number 33 overall. With the 53rd pick overall in the second round, wide receiver Alec Pierce of Cincinnati, selected by the Indianapolis Colts. And at number 62 overall in the second round, safety Brian Cook, his teammate from Cincinnati, was selected by Kansas City. And, of course, another Bearcat went in the third round. Number 74 overall quarterback Desmond Ridder, selected by the Atlanta Falcons. Marcus Jones, the corner from Houston, number 85, the number 85 pick in the overall selection process in the third round. The Houston Cougars picked up by the New England Patriots. Also in the third round, in the number 90 selection overall, Dylan Parham, the offensive guard from Memphis, selected by the Las Vegas Raiders. Also in the third round, Myjai Sanders, the Cincinnati defensive end, the 100th pick overall to the Arizona Cardinals. And at the 105th selection overall in the third round, Danny Gray, the wide receiver from SMU, picked up by the San Francisco 49ers. In the fourth round, Kobe Bryant, the other stellar corner from Cincinnati, picked 109th overall by the Seattle Seahawks. At the number 138th pick overall in the fourth round, Calvin Austin III, the Memphis wide receiver, picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Demarion Williams, the corner from Houston, selected 141st overall in the fourth round, goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Jerome Ford, the standout running back from Cincinnati, selected in the fifth round, 156th overall by the Cleveland Browns, so he'll stay in state. In the sixth round, Darian Beavers, his teammate, the linebacker from the Bearcats, in the sixth round, 182nd pick overall by the New York Giants. Grant Calcaterra, the tight end from SMU, selected 198th overall in the 6th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. Later in the 6th round, at number 216, Curtis Brooks, a defensive tackle, Cincinnati, picked up by the Indianapolis Colts. Another defensive tackle, Kalia Davis from UCF, selected at in the 6th round as the 220th pick overall by the San Francisco 49ers. And the final pick from the AAC, Chris Paul, the offensive lineman from Tulsa, selected number 230th overall by the Washington Commanders. And that's going to put a wrap on this episode. As always, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88. And you can follow the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. This has been the AAC Report only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.